Okay, it looks like the number of participants joining has kind of balanced out, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on succession planning. My name is Megan Peasley, and I am the Iowa SourceLink Program Coordinator at the University of Northern Iowa's John Papa John Entrepreneurial Center. Here, we work with the Iowa Economic Development Authority to bring the Iowa SourceLink platform to all business owners. Whether you're looking to start, grow, fund, or even exit your business, Iowa SourceLink is here to help you. We provide step by step guides, make helpful referrals to our nearly 400 partners, and house the Business License Information Center. We're also excited to put on webinars such as today's. Today, we're excited to be joined by Stacy Molnix of Advance Iowa and Iowa CEO. Stacy is a senior project manager who specializes in helping businesses identify value drivers for business growth, providing strategic and financial valuation assessments, and offering customized succession planning. With over 2 decades of industry experience and strategic insights, we are super excited to have her here today to discuss succession planning and various employee ownership models. Before we get into that, though, I have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available within the next week. You will receive a link to today's recording in the same email that you will receive as proof of your attendance. Second, the slides for today's webinar will be shared momentarily in the chat box. If and when other resources and contact information are brought up during the webinar, they will be placed in the chat box. And finally, please enter any questions that you have into the Q&A box located on the bottom half of your screen. We are going to hold off on answering any questions that come in until the very end. And with that, Stacey, I'll let you take it away.
Megan, thank you very much. Succession planning. Wow, that's a pretty important topic. And I can tell you one of the most important thing about me that probably wasn't in my bio there was that I've been in the trucking industry for about 19 years before I started working here at UNI. So as a small business owner, I certainly understand the pains and the gains of the being in the small business world. And that's why I'm so passionate about the succession planning piece. With that, just to let you know, I am not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. Don't pretend to be one on TV. Nonetheless, anything that we talk about today, I think is solid advice, but always run everything through your professional advisors at home as well. All right, let's begin here. So if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, right? Great quote from Benjamin Franklin. So let's think through that a little bit. Thanksgiving's coming around the corner here. And what would happen if all of a sudden you had 20 people show up at your house and you didn't plan for Thanksgiving? I mean, let alone provide the groceries, the turkey wouldn't have been thawed out. Would you have enough chairs for everybody? Would there even be a meal available for 20 people to eat at? Probably not if you didn't prepare it. But that's a one-day event. Let's think about a wedding. I mean, that's even a bigger event, and that can take years to prepare for. But what about your livelihood? What about the business that you own right now? What if you didn't plan on how to exit or how to succession out of that? That could be a big deal. And to do that, first, we have to think about business continuity planning. So what is that? It's a strategy for a business to continue at acceptable levels following a disruptive event. But what is a disruptive event? It could be an accident. I could get in a car accident on my way home from work today and, I don't know, get a punctured lung and a broken leg and not be able to come to work for 2 months. That would be disruptive. But a divorce could be disruptive too. In fact, I worked at a business that had to close down. There was 2 partners and one of them got a divorce, and the business was closed down because there wasn't any business continuity and planning in place. But at the same time, unfortunately, it could be a death. But these are all things that we can kind of think about and maybe be prepared for. But there's other things that we don't know what's coming around what's coming around the corner. And I can think of COVID as one. So we had a client. There was a couple partners. One was the office guy that handled all the administration stuff. And the other partner was out in the field, and he handled all the supervision of the job site and all that stuff. So unfortunately, the office guy, he contracted COVID. actually went into a coma and was in the hospital for 2 weeks, unconscious, 2 weeks. And you can just about guess who had all the passwords, who was the only guy that was able to sign checks to pay vendors, sign checks for payroll. He was the guy that had all the access to the Facebook marketing, all their digital campaigns for marketing. So that was a big deal. All of a sudden, their business came to a halt. And it wasn't that one guy was trying to hold all the stuff to himself from the other guy. It's just that it was one of those things that they kept thinking, sometime as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to run down to the bank and get on that signature card. It just never occurred. And because of that, it was a disruptive event that disrupted their business for 2 weeks until the guy was able to transfer that authority over to the next partner when he awoke. Fortunately, he did wake and the business is thriving now, but that was a pretty big disruptive event. So how do you begin with business continuity planning? You start by creating a plan with financial analysis management. Know your books, have them solid, and be able to read what the balance sheet and what the income statement's saying to you. Identify your value drivers. Attain a business valuation. Maybe look at some employee ownership solutions and make sure you document everything for the continuity. Join a peer group. Fortunately, these are all things that we offer right here at UNI. We'd be glad to help you out with. But the final piece is succession planning. And sometimes that's something that's hard to talk about and you don't want to talk about. But truly, the best time to start the best time to start the succession planning is the day the business opened. But the second best time is today. So why is that? What's the big deal with that? Unfortunately, depending on what stat you look at, 70 to 80% of small businesses that go up for sale don't. They simply don't. Even furthermore, 85% of the owner's wealth is locked up inside of that business. So what happens is that business closes without selling. Number one, it financially impacts the business owner, but two, it impacts the community. All of a sudden, there's a void within the community. So the business owners next to that one might no longer have the customer flow coming into their business. The person who relied on that business in town might all of a sudden have to go out of town to do their business, maybe to get their oil changed or maybe get their nails done, whatever the case may be. But when they're out of town, they're also spending other money out of town. So it's important to keep them within the community. That's a small business. And we all can think about small businesses and you think, well, maybe they only had one employee or maybe they didn't have any employees. But the medium business size businesses are also affected. In fact, there's a stat that 54% of medium-sized businesses that are acquired by outside private equity and or outside corporations, they close. So that means their assets are stripped. That means all their client list is taken, and that company moves that company back to their headquarters. So that means something that's right here in Iowa might be moved to Illinois, or it might be moved to Nebraska, or it might be moved to Mexico. We don't know, but it's not staying in the community and the jobs aren't there, and it has a negative impact on the community. So 79% of business owners plan to exit in the next 10 years. Unfortunately, only 17% of those have a written plan for succession. They might know in their mind who they're selling their business to, but it's not written down. The problem with that is that everyone exits their business. The unfortunate thing is that we don't always get a pick when we exit our business. We don't understand, we don't know when that timing is going to occur. For example, like I said, when I introduced myself, I was in the trucking business for 19 years. I wasn't planning on getting out. For personal reasons, I had to get out, and I left a lot of money on the table because I wasn't prepared. I did not have succession planning in mind, and I certainly didn't have any business continuity planning in mind. So it hurt me financially. But we're here to help, and we can help mitigate that for you. There are 7 steps to succession planning. The first one is to identify your exit objectives. That can be either financial objectives or that can be a value objective. Maybe after you leave, you don't want the name of your business to change. That might be of value to you. Maybe when you leave, you want to make sure your business stays in the community. That would be of value of you. Whatever that is, you need to identify that. but it's not the same for every business owner. So that's a personal decision for the business owner to decide and determine. Next is you need to calculate your financial resources. That's the financial resources of the business as well as outside of the business. So maybe you have property, maybe you have a great retirement plan somewhere. Whatever the case is, you need to figure out what that is and what that asset value is. Next, if your financial resources do not happen to meet what your plans are after retirement, you need to either build and after that preserve that business value so you can meet your financial goals. And that would be steps 3 and 4. Step number 5, determine your successor. That could be internal or that could be external. But an important piece of this that sometimes people forget is to make sure you have a contingency plan for a successor. Unfortunately, we had a client, their plan was to have their son take over the business. And unfortunately, within the year that they were going to retire, tragically, that son was in a car accident. It's important to always have a contingency plan because we can't see into the future. Of course, document your business continuity. And then finally, look at your personal wealth and estate planning and get those pieces tied up as well. All right, that's all great. But what if I'm ready to exit right now and you haven't done any of this planning? There's 3 essential first steps. The first one is to get your financial house in order. So many times in a small or even a medium-sized business, personal finances are run through the business. That needs to be separated so when you go to sell your business, there's no confusion on what was personal and what was strictly business. So you can see the true value of the business. Which brings us to the next item. Make sure that you know the actual business value. And then finally, identify your team. That team could be include your CPA, maybe attorney, your insurance guy, maybe a financial advisor, whoever that is. Get a team around you that you trust and that you're comfortable with. And fortunately, that's something we can help you out with is the assessment. So we offer free value business system assessments. So what does that mean? First of all, we can give you a value driver report. With that is, if anyone's ever heard of the Myers-Briggs personality test, that's going to be a personality test on your business. So there's probably about 40, 50 questions in there that you go through and ask about that is asked of you about your business. And when that assessment is finished, there's a spot to put in some financials for the last 3 years if you should you want to do that. And with that, we can calculate a report on our side. With that report, we'll look at 8 different drivers that can help you potentially grow your business. Now, we don't ever assume that we know anything about your business. You are the business owner and you know your business best, but this is just a different perspective to look at your business, and maybe we can provide some strategic points to look at or ways to think about things a little bit different that may or may resonate with you that you can implement into your business. As well, we can give you a valuation of your business. So this is a valuation of your business operations. We don't value your assets. We don't value your real estate, anything like that, but just a valuation of your business operation and what that's worth. And of course, there's no cost for any of this. We're happy to do this and it's completely confidential. Sometimes we get to the end of this and the business owner will say, hey, this is great, but I don't have any family in line to take over the business. And they couldn't find a buyer for the business. And they say, who else can buy it? So that's when we started looking at employees. And in May of 2023, we launched the Iowa Center for Employee Ownership. And I'm just going to go over some of those models so maybe some of this would work for you. Be honest, employee ownership doesn't work for everybody, but when it's a good fit, it fits quite well. And we're just going to discuss that a little bit. First of all, there's a lot of different employee ownership structures. You're probably familiar with the left side of the screen. So profits sharing, company stock, phantom stock, those are all pretty common. But on the right side of the screen, that's broad-based employee ownership models. And that's what we here at the Iowa Center for Employee Ownership support. So the ESOP, probably have heard of that if in past, and if nothing else, and the worker cooperative, and then the EOT or the Employee Ownership Trust is another model that we support. We're just going to talk about that here. So an ESOP stands for the Employee Stock Ownership Plan. Usually for this type of model, it takes at least 20 or so employees and at least $1 million of EBITDA. That is not a hard line in the sand. It can vary in ways depending on your business, but that's kind of a starting block. It is actually a qualified retirement plan. And because it's a retirement plan, the IRS has a laser focus on it, so it is highly regulated. IRS is involved, highly regulated. You need to know that's going to cost a little bit of money to get it set up. And as well, there's an annual administration fee that goes along with the ESOP plan. There's also some tax benefits that go with this. So that kind of offsets each other. Absolutely no cost for the employees for this plan. You can almost call this a free retirement for the employees. And in fact, sometimes when business owners convert over to an ESOP, the employees don't even know it happens till the morning after it's happened. When an ESOP occurs, there's absolutely zero organizational structure that has changed. It all remains the same. So what does that mean? That means that the front desk cannot fire the CFO. That means the shipping clerk cannot give themselves a raise. That's not how it works. Organizational structure remains the same. And not just in the ESOP, but in all the employee ownership models. So just high level basic. So when an ESOP occurs, the trust is established. It's the trust that actually buys the business. Now, the great part of this is that the owner can choose to say, hey, I want to retire, but I'm not ready for full retirement. Maybe they only want to sell half of the business. Maybe they have family members. Maybe there was two siblings and the daughter wants to stay in it and the son wants to get out. That's absolutely fine. The daughter can still own 50% and the son can sell to the ESOP as 50% as well. That is completely up to the owner. So it's highly flexible on how you come out, but it's also timeline. Maybe you want to start at 30% and then in 2 years go to 50% and then go to 70%. That is absolutely fine. Maybe you would like to continue to work. Maybe you want to get paid out for what's the equity that's in the business, but you want to stay on as an employee. That's fine too. There's a lot of flexibility for the owner in that fact. As we talked, it's an IRS regulated retirement plan and employees would receive shares on that. But when the employee leaves the company, they are cashed out. So that doesn't matter if the employee's terminated, doesn't matter if the employee's fired. Once they leave the company, they are cashed out. The worker cooperative. So there's not a whole lot of worker cooperatives in the state of Iowa. In fact, there's only one right now, but we are currently working with 2 businesses to convert that into to essentially 3 worker cooperatives. So I'm not quite sure why it's not in Iowa, but I can tell you that Minnesota and Wisconsin have some of the most worker cooperatives in the entire country. So it's just not, I feel like people just aren't familiar with that model. So that's another reason we educate and advocate for this model as well, because it's for the smaller businesses. Now, that said, the largest worker cooperative in the country is in New York, and it is a home healthcare company, and there's actually 2,000 employees in there. So although it's typically for smaller businesses, it can work for larger companies as well. In this model, the employee buys a share. Now, the share is nominal, but meaningful. So that means it can be as low as $50, or maybe it can be as high as $5,000. It probably depends on the type of business and the employee, what they're able to come up with. But it's like I said, it has to be for the worker cooperative model to work. It has to be something that is attainable for each employee that wants to be in it. With that one share, they have one vote. Now, that vote doesn't vote them a raise, and the vote doesn't, vote them 4 months of vacation. What that one vote does, and it gives them the ability to decide major decisions in the company. That major decision might be to open a new location. That major decision might be if they're a coffee shop, for example, that one vote might be to start selling the coffee beans in addition to having just a coffee shop. Whatever that case, it's a major vote that would alter the business itself. There's board governance involved, but again, the organizational structure remains the same. Right, the basics of the worker cooperative. Again, the cooperative is established, and the cooperative, the cooperative is established, and the employees will each buy one share, and they can't have more than one share. With that, the annual profits are allocated based on a pre-existing formula was established when the worker cooperative was established. So that could be based on salary, that could be based on number of years employed, that could be based on number of hours worked, whatever it is, it's based on a calculation. Again, if the employee leaves, the share is bought back by the company without appreciation to the share. So if the share was bought at $500 and they leave in 10 years, the company buys it back at $500. So one note to mention about the worker cooperative is it's typically either seller or non-traditional financing. Thinking back to the ESOP, that would be financed through a traditional bank. But the worker cooperative, due to the fact that employees are not putting up collateral, the employees are not draining their savings account, and it's just the worker cooperative as a business itself, it's usually either seller financed or there's non-traditional financing that's available. And if anybody's interested in that, we can certainly get you hooked up to the right institution that there would be some financing. The Employee Ownership Trust, or the EOT. This is for any size business. Doesn't matter if it's small, doesn't matter if it's larger. But it's basically a new hybrid model between the ESOP and the worker cooperative. This is I would say, a brand new model for the country. So it was established in 2014 over in Europe and came over here. With that, right now, by the last numbers I've heard, there's about 60 or so in the country. But there's actually a partial EOT located right here in Cedar Falls. With that, the selling owner maintains control. So they can set up that EOT however they want to. They maintain control of it. Again, no cost to the employee, and the organizational structure remains the same. So the basics of the EOT. First, just like the others, the trust is established. And then the EOT gets the loan or pays off the owner. With that, again, can be a full or partial sale. Owner can stay on the employee as they want, but the profits make the payment for the company, and the remaining profits are given out to the employees. Now, with that, note that a trust could be, it could have some tax implications. So we have to make sure that all of the profits are given to the employees without having any tax implications brought on. So with all that, employees just might be the best option for business succession, especially in the rural communities where it might be a little bit tougher to sell your business. So there's a lot of benefits for employee ownership. Number one, it's a built-in feasible buyer for the selling owner. It provides a lasting legacy and allows the owner to determine and to reach all of their value goals. The workers might find better pay, increase wealth, but some of the studies are showing that it gives a lot of job satisfaction. So all of a sudden they're not coming to work late. All of a sudden they might, might not have as many days missed because they're very, very satisfied in their job. Helps out the community. There's more local spending, stable jobs, and this is one of the most interesting points, I think, is that it's heightened civic engagement. So Rutgers University did a study on this, and those employees that are involved in an employee-owned business tend to vote more, they tend to volunteer more, and they tend to have more community engagement. And it also helps the business. Like I mentioned before, it helps with employee retention, improves the longevity of it, and it has higher growth and productivity. So again, Rutgers University did a study on this, and employee-owned companies increase their productivity by 4%, which in turn increases their profits by 14%. Employee ownership has a 6% turnover versus a 14% turnover in non-employee-owned companies. And in fact, during the pandemic, Rutgers also did a study on this. Employee-owned companies retain jobs better than non-employee companies by 4 to 1. All right, so you're hearing all this and you're thinking, yeah, that sounds good, but my employees can't afford to buy the business. Well, that's not true because the employees are not financing the business. You're getting either, if it's an ESOP, you're getting financing through traditional banks. If it's a worker co-op, you're getting financing through, you're either getting seller financing or you're getting financing through non-traditional ways that can connect you with. And the trust can go either route as well. But maybe they're not cut out to be business owners. So again, I'm going to say false because they're already in the business. They already know the business. Now, if the business owner is taking care of like the bookkeeping, for example, and payroll, yeah, maybe they can't do that. That's fine. You can still hire that out. Or maybe they can. Maybe they can still do that. Maybe it's just you need to teach them the skills because you already taught them what they're doing now. Why couldn't they potentially be taught to do more things? The employees will not be able to make any money. Again, that's false. So if the company's making money now, there's no reason why it can't make money when they're running it. Now, that said, if it doesn't make money now, we would never recommend it to be employee owned. That is a hard line for us because we have to make sure that this works for the employee owners, and we don't want to recommend this model if we don't think it's going to work. The employees won't agree on how to run the business. Again, false. The organizational structure does not change. I think I've mentioned that several times. But as well, there's going to be bylaws and policies and charters put in place before the employee ownership even starts to begin. So that's all taken care of. And by those forms, they need to be followed. And then finally, employees don't want to own the business. My response to that is always, have you asked? Because you don't know. And it might be just something that would be very, very interesting to them. All right, finally, it all sounds expensive and complex. And you know what? It can be. But that's why we're here. And I'm inviting everyone to take that journey with us. We're more than happy to go through this and to provide consulting and guidance. And none of that would cost anybody. All of our services are absolutely free. In fact, here is a list of all the services that we provide for free. Free to you. We get some public funding, we get some private funding for this. So somebody is, funding our services, but it's not the employee owner. It is not the business owner. It's not the business. It's not the community leaders. It's the outside funding that we've sourced to help provide these. All right. Small businesses, lifeblood of the economy, makes up 99.3% of all firms and almost half the employees. That's why this is so important to make sure that our businesses thrive and stay sustainable within our communities. And together we can keep them open. Now, if anybody's interested in this and would like to learn more, but would like to do it anonymously, we're going to have a conference coming up on October 23rd. Any community leader that would like to be there, business owner would like to be there, or we welcome you to come. If you're a business owner that's looking at this and not sure exactly what you're thinking, reach out to us. We're happy to give you a 50% discount code to attend. We just want you there. And if this would help you to learn a little bit more, we would love to work with you. That said, we're also willing to work with you one-on-one. So please reach out in any case. Here's some upcoming events that we're having. Most of these are free except for the conference. It costs $199 to attend our conference. I think the TEDx, I think that might be $15-25. That's pretty low cost, but all the other are free. Feel free to download our PowerPoint and you'll be able to have access to that. And then with that, I just want to thank you for listening. And if there's any questions, I am more than happy to take those on right now.
Stacy, we don't currently have any in the chat. Just as a reminder, you can find the Q&A box on the bottom half of your screen. Stacy, is there any questions you normally get? Like, what's the most common question or misconception that people have when you work with them?
Absolutely. So maybe the most common misconception about this, and we addressed this a little bit in the presentation, but is that it is something that everybody's holding hands and getting together. Nope, this is still a capitalist business that's ran in America that has organizational structure to that. There's still a leader, there's still supervisors, and there's still the those that are in tow to do the regular work. Nothing's changed as far as that goes. A it is a business that's run just like any other business. It just has a different profit model and how it allocates those.
That makes sense. Still don't have any questions in the Q&A box. What would you say is the best next steps that you would recommend to someone after they watch this webinar?
Great question, Megan, and thank you so much for asking that. So you're more than welcome to attend any event that we have coming up, but feel free to reach out to us. There's lots of things that we can do. If you're a community leader, we'll happy to go out to your community and give a presentation on business succession or continuity planning or employee ownership models. Please reach out. We'd love to talk to you about it and go into your community and help you out. That's something that we would request that we partner with you to do that. If you can provide the audience, we're happy to do that at no cost. If you're a business owner, please reach out. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but the one thing that's really, really important is all our services, besides being at no cost, are completely confidential. We don't talk about your business in any way except when we're talking to you. So anything that you would like to come to us about and talk to us about, we won't mention to anybody. And it's completely confidential.
Love that. Thank you, Stacy. If there's no other questions, one more that I'm just gonna round us off with. We still have about 26 minutes, so still plenty of time for Q&A or any other content you want to go over, Stacy. But what would be the biggest takeaway that you want people to take away from what you've talked about, whether it be succession planning or the employee ownership models?
Absolutely. So the biggest takeaway is just to know that there's help and there's free resources out there. I've already explained some of the things that we can do, but maybe there's something that I didn't talk about that you're wondering, I wonder if they could help. Please know that still give us a call. We don't have all the answers and we don't have all the expertise in every area, but fortunately, we probably have somebody that does. The state of Iowa has this amazing network of free work resources that not everybody's familiar with. So if you want to give us a call, shoot us an email, whatever the case may be, ask a question. If we don't know, we're going to get you connected with somebody that does know. Might not be at the University of Northern Iowa. It might be with Cirrus. It might be with the SBDC. It might be with a number of organizations. But we have a lot of connections and we all work together. Even though we're in different organizations, we definitely work together and we're here to help you in any way that we can.
Thanks, Stacy. Okay, we did get a question come in through the Q&A. How do we attain the Value Builder System assessment?
Great question. Shoot me an email. What the assessment is something that is an online assessment. So it doesn't matter if you do it at, Sunday midnight or Wednesday noon. All you have to do is send me an email. I have to know your name, your business name, your zip code, and your number of employees. On that side, I'll set up an account for you over here. With that, you will then get a link that's unique to you. Nobody else gets that link. Nobody else sees that link. Just you would see that link. You click on it and you answer the questions. You put in the financial data. And then when you're all complete, you let me know. That link does not expire, so you can get in it and out of it as many times as you need to be. You can get in it, answer a question, think about it, and think, you know what, that's not quite right. You might want to go back and change the answer. That's absolutely fine. You use it as long and you change the answers or edit the answers as long as you need to. It can be open for 6 months, it can be open for a year, it doesn't matter. But once you're complete, you shoot me another email that says, hey, I just finished up and I'm ready for the next step. With that, you let me know. I will generate a report on my side, and then what we're gonna do is we are going to set up a meeting, the consultation. You're welcome to come on campus, but if that does not work for geographical reasons, I'm more than happy to do the Zoom call with you. I will share the results with you, and we'll go over the report. The report's probably going to take 30 to 60 minutes to review, depending on the amount of questions. And after we meet, I'll send you a copy of the report for you to have for your own self. After that, maybe your business changes, or maybe you get a valuation done and looked at some of the drivers and you changed some of the answers. Maybe your finances changed some way and you want to do it the next year. You're more than welcome to go in and we can do the whole thing all over again. So there's no expiration to it and there's no limit to it. We can do it as many times as you feel needed until you're satisfied that you have all the information that you need about your business.
Okay, it looks like that was the only question we had in the chat. We still have about 20 minutes. Stacey, is there anything else that you'd like to cover or talk about?
Again, feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, more than happy to discuss any of this with you.
Um, Well, thank you so much again, Stacey, for sharing all of this information with us. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be available to watch on our website or by searching for Iowa SourceLink on YouTube within the next week. If you'd like to learn more or schedule a consultation with Advance Iowa or Iowa CEO, we'll be sharing this presentation file and the recording via email within the next week. All of their contact information will be included in that email. As a reminder, this webinar was actually part 2 in a webinar series. So if you want to go back and catch up on part 1 and learn about all the resources available to you in the succession planning process, the link to that webinar recording is currently available on Iowa SourceLink's YouTube channel. The link will be included in the follow-up email for today's webinar. Join us next month as we'll be bringing you another installment in our 2025 tax webinar series. The Iowa Department of Revenue will be joining us for an overview of taxes for motor fuel, cigarette, tobacco, nicotine, and vapor retailers on Wednesday, October 8th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Check out the registration link for more information. Visit iowasourcelink.com and navigate to our webinars page to sign up for any of the webinar sessions. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and until next time, have a great rest of your day.